Hello, welcome to the module on writing. In the earlier part of the earlier course, we did some exercise in writing, but those exercises were limited to the basics of the fundamentals of language and some very elementary principles concerning the creation of contents. In this module, this time, in the writing module for the course called English 2, we will pay greater attention to aspects of writing like style, like appropriateness, like discourse features, and content creation of a higher order, of a higher level. So, in this session today, we are going to talk about writing to argue. We have taken some examples from the growth of internet retail marketing, retail shops, online retail shops. So that's why, to help us remember it better, we have called this session online grocery. And we are going to take some examples from a report that talks about the growth of this industry, online grocery. But the points that we are going to make out of a more general nature, a lot of people say, big companies, multinationals, huge malls, etc., need not get into retail marketing in areas like grocery. You know, they are best left to local shops because they give employment to hundreds of thousands. They are also culture related, the kind of coffee that one likes comes only from Kumbakodam, not even all of Tanjavur, let alone all of Tamil Nadu or India. Okay. Now these things will disappear in in global markets, they fear. Some others say nobody will lose any employment. The form of employment, the nature of employment will change. Actually, they might sell more. The big companies will take it from their shops and will deliver it to customers. Nothing of the culture would be lost. Idli would still be idli, coffee would still be coffee. You know, they say it will also reduce cost, it will reduce efficiency, and it will enlarge, enhance, increase choices. Whether you like coffee from Kumbakonam or from Karnataka, Puttur, whether you like idli from Murugan idli or you like idli from Woodlands, you will have greater choice and you decide and it's delivered at your doorstep at a lower cost without any hassle to you. You can use the money and time you save for other purposes. So there are arguments both sides, and deciding is not easy. How do you write when you argue? So in this session, we are not going to talk so much about creating content. We already spoke about it. But even then, let's spend a couple of minutes on creating content. Go next. Okay. You need content no matter what we write, no matter what we talk about. you know, the mainstay of any presentation, the mainstay of any piece of writing or speaking, any presentation is content. Unless you have things to say, language will have nothing. You will have no language actually, unless you have things to say. The point is, the problem is, or the question is, how can we have things to say? So imagine you have a topic like, you know, whether big companies should be permitted into this retail sector, retail grocery sector, retail vegetables, retail fruits, perishables consumed on a daily basis, not even stored in homes. Okay, how can you create content? It's pretty simple. You already know enough. Make a note of them, what you know, in terms of points, as a synopsis, as an overview of what you are going to write. And then also check, now these days, internet is a huge source. You can also look at local examples. What happened to the shop next to your house, within the street? What happened to that little old woman who used to sell only guavas? She would bring a small basket of guavas in the morning, and by afternoon she would have sold them all, would leave, and on the proceeds of that sale, she would feed a family, she would look after herself. What happened to her? If she is still there, you can say that the strength of local retailers is big. They can survive big companies. If she hasn't, you can use this as an example to say, look, this species is so highly threatened. Okay, so you already have some data, some knowledge, some content. Then you can also look around net, I said, or books or relevant sources, and find out some statistics, some examples, some anecdotes. Think on the subject, think on subjects related to this, and if X is true of Y, if similar thing in retail has happened in clothes, in livestock, meat, fish, dairy, then what is so special about grocery? If vending of milk can be centralized in huge countries like the USA, like China, like USSR, then what is a small town and what's a small village? So there are many ways you can gather data and use them to your best advantage. But after you got enough content, you must also know how to present them. Because just as we speak, writing to argue also has many sides. Okay, they are usually related to policies, related to decisions about policies. What kind of policy should a public body, a municipal corporation, a state or a central government of a country follow? And there were passionate arguments, television debates, newspaper forums, radio talks, people in private corners, social media. There are lots that are being said for and against. Now, if you want to write a very healthy, good report, then you will have to take both sides, or there may be more sides, okay, more than two, because any the formation of any policy, the design of any policy is rarely undisputed. They are seldom or nearly never, I repeat myself, and nearly never undisputed, never unanimous, never universal. Okay, somebody has to take that blame and decide in the larger interest, but in the long term interest. But before taking such a painful or a pleasant decision, the person has to look at documents. That manager, that leader has to look at documents. And these documents ideally should present both sides or all sides. Okay, go next. Now, let's look at an example. Uh, maybe, this debate, this is rather an old debate, not a new one, whether whether conventional energy sources, mainly, carbon fuel, can it be replaced by nuclear energy? And there are debates both for and against, very passionate debates. Okay, look at one. You see, this is a 25-minute uh, video recording of the debate. We are going to give you the link. Please watch them, watch it, watch both the speakers. And while listening to their presentations, the contents contributed by the audience, also mark the language. See if there is anything special about the language in which we argue, okay? And you will see that it is not just the contents, it is the language, an appropriate language which conveys your preference for one uh, kind of opinion on the issues to another kind of opinion on the issues that will win your audience. Okay, so is it for writing. It's basically, except that in writing is not sound, writing is spelling and visible words, whereas speaking is sound and audible words. But by and large, it remains the same thing, that arguments are presented in a very special kind of language. And while learning to write on these subjects, we of course have to learn to collect and present contents, and we also have to learn the appropriate language of presenting contents. Rest of this session we talk about that, please. Okay, this is the language of argument. You have things like, on the one hand, as well as, point of view, in my view, on my view, in my view, in view of, on consideration, on considering, etc. Go next. Okay, or you can have adjectives and adverbs which indicate your preference or your emphasis upon different kinds of different options on the issue, different possibilities on the issue. So, for example, when somebody says solar power is the least polluting option, okay, somebody could say it is the most easily available option. So, least, most, more, less, little, much, many. This become the part of this become parts of the language of argument. Next. So, with adjectives and adverbs, you know say you can use adverbs like most cost effective. Cost effective is an adjective together which qualifies the noun option, but you can further enhance it by saying most cost effective or least cost effective, least time taking, most time taking, or actually that is the only future of the big cities. You the person arguing on this side wants us to believe that there are no options. We have to go for solar energy, whether we do so today or we do so after the damage is done. Okay, similar things for nouns. You can have things like groups, uh, words and nouns showing groups and sections of opinion, their size, their power. So majority, groups, half the population. Quite sometimes presenters do not tell you how many people they surveyed, but they simply say half the people we surveyed have said ours is the best drink, ours is the best soap. How many people did they survey actually? Out of a population of 1000 million, it's possible they surveyed 500 people, which would be much smaller than even 1% of the population. But these things bring emphasis into their presentation. So can be with other words. Go on. Okay. Expressions demanding considerations, expressions requesting your attention. So you can have phrases and groups of words, expressions like, now before we conclude, or before you conclude, while we are at it, can one can as well see, or in totality, not in partiality, the expressions of this kind. Okay. So and there are other characteristics, other signs, other features that show how people write to argue and how people plead for, how they advocate for their side of the case. And quite often, one rather than another person wins this case, and that's not, you know, only on the basis of content, but also on the basis of the power of language. Okay, next, you know, look at this example. I mean, we said, okay, is we're just curious. Is retail marketing in in grocery and vegetables, fruits, is it also growing? And when we checked the net, we found a long report, and I have taken we have taken one paragraph from this report. Look at the language, okay, and highlighted expressions. Next. But as I have been telling you, languages are best learned by doing. So, here is another extract from the same report. Can you look at it? Go next. And can you look at this rather long extracts? And can you find words, expressions, phrases, idioms that indicate that here is somebody arguing for or against or comparing conventional market with big online retail market? Okay, and you will at once see that the language of arguments is different. Next. Okay, here is our model answer. Once you have done the comeback, please, to the elder. Once you have looked at these texts, these extracts, and you have marked, underlined, or highlighted, or made note of relevant portions of language to show that these expressions are there because the writer is arguing, then you can compare your work with the model answers we have given. Please go to the next. Go to next. Okay. Go to next. Okay. After comparing your answer with the model answers we have given, once again, please do some more. You can write your own essay. You can write your own arguments. Say, for example, in about 200 words, write an essay of about 3 or 4 paragraphs, not more, on on a very controversial topic in our times. Some people say young children should not have unrestricted access to computers and cell phones. They can harm themselves, these people say. There are some others, on the other hand, who say that everyone has to learn how to use these tools. So why not start early? Why not let children learn when they learn it best? As all of us know, a child is the keenest and the fastest learner if the child wants to, right? So, examine the two sides of this issue and present your own opinion on this subject You can use your own ideas, excuse me, arguments and evidence to support your arguments and conclusions. To help you, please go on. We have given you a brief synopsis. Okay, you can keep these points in mind and then write an essay in about 200 words, including all important um, aspects on both sides of the case, and then presenting a conclusion that you feel is the best. Once you've done that, compare it with the work we have again given, and if you feel you have already done a good job, wonderful, go on to other topics. If you feel you need to do it again, please do not hesitate. Do so again, because writing is a skill, and skills are best learned by doing again and again and several times over again until you reach perfection. Thank you and good luck.